A good dinner of Shabbos, everybody. Ephraim Schwartz calling you from here, back in Carmiel. Finally, Baruch Hashem, after a few weeks of not being here for Shabbos, back home, back in my shul, Amir Hashem, this Shabbos. Looking forward, some Carmiel cholent, Kiddush, the Olam, the Tzibur, the singing, the dancing. Nothing like a Carmiel Shabbos. Even though I say nothing like a Beit Shabbos, nothing like a Beit Shabbos, but listen, there's no place like home, as they say. And we come to an exciting Parsha here in Eretz Yisrael this week, Parshat Korach. And first of all, I'd like to dedicate this week's Parsha. Has been sponsored by my brother-in-law, Aaron Shlomo, in the Ilui Nishmas, his father, who was nifter last week. And he got up from Shiva, and his Shimon Gedalia ben Rabbi Yaakov Moshe, Shimon Golding. Remember him in his old days. Many people know him from Manhattan Beach. A tremendous askan, a powerful person that has a lot of influence on his children's lives. Somebody that was always makbid on tefillah and on shul, on decorum of shul, and he should have many chusim as well as many other things. And his children should be menuchim with the Avelei Tzion in Yerushalayim. And this Torah should be Lil Neshma say, and all of you can sponsor really a weekly email. Join us, partner with us every single week in our email, in our video, and you can share in our schus and memorialize somebody, get a special occasion, a happy occasion, Amir Hashem as well. And we come to Parshat Korach. And, there's so much to talk about machlokas and other things about Korach. There was one thing that I guess stuck out at me this week. I always try to find something new, something different, something I never really chewed about beforehand. And I saw an incredible insight I want to share with you. A little bit deep, but certainly very powerful. I touched on it in my email. I want to elaborate on it as well. And that is the aftermath, meaning after the story of Korach, right, where Hashem tells him to take these copper pans, copper shovels to bring the ketores with, right? And then he tells him right afterwards, a fire goes out, it needs up to 250 men, and then Hashem tells Moshe, tell Elazar the son of Aaron to take these shovels, because they become holy. The shovels or these pans of these sinners, that sinned with their souls. What should you do with them? And you should make them very flat as a covering for the altar. They were brought before Hashem, and they become holy. They should be a sign for the Jewish people. Rashi says that they are holy because they have prohibited in Hana, and they should be they were made into Kli Sharei, so they were holy beforehand, Rashi saying. Right? And what is the os? It should be remembering that these are the people that argued on the kahuna, and they were stopped. It's a strange thing. These are almost idolatry. Korach, and there's like almost the Meshachach and other people discuss the reason why they were swallowed alive, because it's almost like an Ir Hanidachas. It's a city that rebelled against Hashem, rebelled against Moshe, and yet we're taking these pans that they used to bring and to rebel against Moshe with, and we're putting them in the holiest place. They're going on the Mizbayach. That's strange. That's interesting. Why is that? Why are these things that were used to, almost if you think about it, it's like the rocks that are thrown on people and protests and stuff like that. And we're taking that, we're sanctifying it, and we're putting it in the most holy of all places. It's almost like we have the Shivrei Luchos. We find that also, the broken tablets that should memorialize the sins of the Jewish people, and the golden calf is put right next to the full Luchos, the real tablets. It's interesting. We have that concept. Something was used that can bring up sin, bring up this and that, and it's there as a sign, as a memorial. So I saw some Hasidic pshatim, and this is where I certainly was my leaning was that they had holy intentions with that, and those holy intentions. The normally Melech says this, that a person has holy intentions, and that's what they were. They were well-meaning people. They wanted to be the Kohanim Gedolim. They had that tremendous desire to serve Hashem. And that doesn't go away. That gives a level of sanctity that's not destroyed. It's an interesting approach, and there's an eternal message in that. That when we look at somebody, we say, he's chazer treif, he's not chazer treif. It's a matter of picking something up and turning it even more than that. But I saw the Shem Yishmuel says something much deeper, and he asks even better questions that I didn't even think about naturally. Right? And his questions are very interesting. He says, you know what? What does it mean that it was used as a covering for the Mizbayach? Didn't they have the Mizbayach beforehand? And what did they do before they did this? And so what he says is that the service in the Mizbayach was different until this point, meaning the entire service of in the Mishkan changed after the story of Korach. Until that point in time, we had a copper altar, and they used to fill it with dirt, and seemingly they would bring the carbon on top of the dirt. And now, or should we say earth in a more polite way, right? And now they would have these copper pans, almost like as a covering, as a grill on top of that for the Mizbeach. How many of you ever thought about that before? I mean, it's a fascinating idea to think about a whole service changing here after the story of Korach. That in itself is something to really mull about. But it's even more than that, because the Ketores itself, and seemingly, is never brought, has anything to do with the copper altar outside. It's brought in the Mizbeach Hazav, the gold altar inside, and the pans that are used for the Ketores are gold, and the Yom Kippur on the highest holiest days. So here we have Ketores that's being brought on copper pans, and these copper pans are being put on the copper altar. It's almost just like it's pre-planned that something is supposed to change over here, and they're used for sins and they're changed for holiness. What's going on over here? The Shem Mishmol says something very deep. He says we have something called Zahav, Kesef, and Nechoshen. Three elements. Zahav is Avraham, Kesef is Yitzchak, Nechoshes is Yaakov. Okay? Deeper, Hasidic. We're not going to get into all those concepts. Also represents three traits. Zahav is the fear of God, the awe of God. Dei Zahav, right? That the Jewish people, it has to have this awesomeness. And Avraham Avinu is the one that weirds God. Now Bahar Hashem Yeroeh. Avram is that sense of awe. Interesting, I would have thought Yitzchak, but that's what he suggests. On the other hand, Yitzchak is kisufin, it's kesef, it's this longing, it's ahava, it's love. Again, seemingly those two things would switch, but both of them are irrelevant, really, for the third one, because Yaakov is Nechoshes, and Yaakov is copper. And he says copper is the greatest of all of the elements, because copper is azus, it's chutzpah, right? It's this brazenness that is of copper, for whatever reasons. Now, the azus, this Nechoshes, he goes, that really is the strongest midah, because that's how we azaz the kedusha. We're supposed to go ahead and be az kenem. We should be audacious about the Jewish people. That's what brings us to the highest level. He says originally sacrifices were all brought on earth. Avram Avinu is earth, and he's the one where sacrifices start, bris bein habisarim, and it's about humility. It's about going ahead and having this fear of God, this awesomeness of God. The Akedah, that first Jewish sacrifice where it's total bittul, total love of Hashem. It's Avram and Yitzchak together. It's that ahava, it's that yira, it's that love. I'm willing to do everything for God, and it's that total awesomeness of God. And that was the concept of sacrifice, and it's brought on earth. It's brought on that sense of negating it all. As opposed to that, we come to Yaakov. Yaakov is Nechoshes. Yaakov is that one that says, I'm going to take the world, I'm going to bring it up, I'm going to elevate it. It's moving it to the next step. It's the desire, it's the Bechir Shabbat of joining the 12 tribes together and making that something great out of it. And Korach was motivated by that same desire. And his men were. We're going to go ahead, and all the Jewish people are holy, and it's almost like bring the 12 tribes together and we can make it happen. And the problem was he still had ego to himself. He still had that sense of, it's me that's going to do that. And that's where he was missing his boat, right? It's why Yaakov, he says, didn't want his name mentioned with Korach, because Yaakov was the Nechoshes, the copper, the longing all for Hashem, that chutzpah to do anything for God, and without the ego. He already was built on Avram and Yitzchak and that premise. Korach was missing that, so Yaakov said, leave my name out of this story. And so what does Hashem do? He says, bring it on the Nechoshes. I know that your desire is Nechoshes, and the Keturah is Nechoshes, and we're going to shift it, because that's really the next step, because we're about to go into Eretz Yisrael. And when you're going to come into Eretz Yisrael, you need to be audacious. Until we got into Eretz Yisrael, we have Avram, we have longing, it's all about religious and our relationship with God. But in Eretz Yisrael, you need chutzpah. It's maybe why Israelis are so chutzpahdik, right? It's why we have this, because we do things that nobody else will do. In my email, I wrote about Gush Katif. We're coming to a land that is desolate, that is barren, that's 7 nations, and we have the chutzpah to build a country here. You need to have Yaakov Avinu to be able to do that, to transform the world. You have to have that nechoshes. Our sacrifices in Eretz Yisrael, right, are going to change. We're going to take that chutzpah, that nechoshes, that of Korach, it was too early, and we're going to bring it here to Eretz Yisrael, and we're going to put it on the Mizbayach. And we're going to have it built on the earth and the Avar of Avraham Avinu. And from there, we're going to go ahead and have the Chutzpah to change the world, to atone for everything that we need to atone for, and to build the base of Mikdash. That's Klal Yisrael. That's the Shem Yisrael. It's so powerful, so different, so unique. What a tremendous idea. And especially if you blend that idea with the earlier idea. Because what holds us back sometimes is that I'm sinful and I'm bad, and there's just negating of oneself. And what the Naim Ali Melech and the other Hasidic Rebbes are saying is that no, there's Kedusha in you. Don't negate yourself entirely. Transform it. Build it on the humility, build it on that earth, and then bring the carbon of the Choshes. Bring it on that chutzpah that we can do anything, we can make anything happen. It's a powerful idea, and it's a powerful message when we're coming back to build Eretz Yisrael now. We're living in a time where Chutzpah Yaski, we're told. When Mashiach is going to come, there's going to be Chutzpah all over the world. And Chutzpah all over the world is not only a negative thing. That's the power of Yaakov Avinu, to go ahead and to make that world and to build that world and to bring Mashiach. To have the Chutzpah to say, we want Mashiach now. That just slipped out. To say that we're going to do everything to bring Mashiach. The Chutzpah to move to Eretz Yisrael. The Chutzpah to stand up in the face of the world and say, I'm a proud Jew and I'm not embarrassed. I don't have to hide anymore. Right? The chutzpah to go ahead and say there's only one God in this world and all the other religions are bluff. The chutzpah to say that Eretz Yisrael is our country and we don't care what anybody else claims, and you're not shmum, as Ben Gurion said. And the chutzpah to go ahead and tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu even, we're ready. We want it. It's time. Bring now the Geula. Bring all of Klal Yisrael here. End our tzaras. Bring it, make it happen. So it's an incredible parsha, a incredible limud of Korach, and I want to wish all of you a fantastic Shabbos, a fantastic week. Sign up for my weekly emails, sponsor my weekly emails, Rabbi Schwartz at yahoo.com. Message me. I'll see you next Shabbos.